Hello and welcome. Today I have the distinct pleasure of having with me Shari Sharifi Brown, the author of the award-winning book entitled The 7 Commandments for Happiness and Prosperity. She was born in Iran and then came to the United States to study at California State University, Los Angeles, where she earned a Bachelor of Science in Engineering. She then returned to Iran to work as an engineer for the Shah on a federal project. She then went on to receive her postgraduate degree in engineering management from Harvard University. When the revolution in Iran occurred, she moved back to the United States and has now lived in America for over 30 years. And although she was born a Shiite Muslim in pre-revolutionary Iran, she converted to Christianity and then married into a Jewish American family. It is as a result of her study and practice of all these various philosophies that has allowed her to come to a very important conclusion, which is that the similarities of these religions outweigh their differences. Shari, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
The title of your book, The 7 Commandments for Happiness and Prosperity, why 7 commandments?
Ruben, I consolidated the 10 commandments of Moses, 2 commandments of Jesus, and 7 commandments of Muhammad. I consolidated them to their core, got rid of the redundancy, and I came up with 7, which is without missing any commandments of any prophets.
But what do the 7 commandments have to do with happiness and prosperity?
Ruben, if you follow the 7 commandments, you feel more serene, you feel better about yourself. When you feel better about yourself and you feel righteous, you are a happier person. We are happier. Happiness begets happiness, and you become more successful in your business negotiations, in your job interviews. When you become successful and you're happier with yourself, then you can call yourself a righteous, prosperous, happy person.
You state that people should be in constant prayer mode. Why?
Because prayer is a way that you communicate with God. It's meditation. Stay in the moment. When you pray, you have to have concentration, you have to have commitment, and you have to be sincere. When you open your heart to God and you talk from the bottom of your heart and you see with the eyes of your heart, He would listen and He would respond to you. You would feel it.
Shari, you heard me tell the viewers that you were born a Shiite Muslim and then converted to Christianity and then married a Jewish man. So from that very special perspective, give me your definition of what is religion.
Religion is a Latin word, religio, which means bind together. But that word has been so misused that it's actually separating people now. Most of it is because of self-serving, because of power, because of tax deductible, whatever it is, it's not religion. And really it has nothing to do with God. So I think religion really now separates people when God unites people. Muslims know about Christianity and Judaism because Quran was based on Christianity and Judaism, and they learned monotheism from Christians and Judaism. Muhammad came and called his religion Muslim because the word Islam means submission to the higher power. And then he condemned the title of Christianity and Judaism because he said they call followers of Christ Christian, as if his religion was different than Moses. He called Moses Muslim, he called Jesus Muslim, because in Arabic, Muslim means submitting to the higher power.
So they're all the same.
They're all the same. If you don't want to use Muslim, then find another word that means that. But don't call them different names and titles, because people are so so affected by these titles, and they lack knowledge of Islam. Muslims know about Christianity and Judaism, but the reverse is not true.
So, can you tell me what is idolatry and how is it being used in today's world, for example, like in advertisement?
Well, idolatry in the old days was worshiping different gods, handmade gods by wood, stone. Now it's transferred itself to worshiping possessions, money, and power, which is the same thing. The only thing in your life that you have to worship is God. You have to worship God like you can't worship anything or anybody else. Advertisement agencies have become the high priest of materialism, and materialism is the new idolatry.
Shari, what is your definition of being rich and how that translates to your inner being as well as your outer being?
There is no dollar amount on being rich. There is no rich in miserly, and there is no poverty in generosity. Having said that, rich is a matter of perception. My perception of rich could be different from yours, from someone else. Somebody might be rich by having 12 children, another person could be rich by having private planes. So it's a matter of perception. How you feel rich is for you to have serenity of your soul and know everything you are doing is right, and be a charitable giver. If you give, you pray, you don't steal, you love your neighbor, you are rich. Now, the financial part will come when you don't expect it. What you shouldn't do is ask God to become rich. You should always be content with what you have. You should always feel joyous for having God in your heart, and never ask for material things. You could ask for a job or a car if you don't have one, but wanting something more than what makes your life go on, that is being greedy and prohibited. You shouldn't really ask for material things. However, if you do have the desire to have riches of this world, which is meaningless, you would get it if you feel righteous and if you pray and if you do the commandments.
So, with so many people in the world struggling, out of work, how can you help them?
I would say people who are out of work, they have to make it their job to look for a job. Practice the 7 commandments, and I promise you would definitely find a job. But you have to look for a job. You cannot sit and think that God would create a job for you.
So, Shari, then how do you define the difference between faith and hope?
Well, faith and hope go together. They're parallel. Hopelessness emanates from faithless. When you don't have faith, you have no hope. When you have faith, you have hope because you know whatever you ask from God, He's going to grant you.
You also state that it's really important not to get angry. Why is that?
It's one of the commandments of Muhammad to ward off evil. Evil does exist, but God is more powerful. So whenever you see jealousy, animosity, anger, that is evil. The commandments is ward off evil. Having faith, being conscious of the existence of evil, you would notice. As soon as somebody comes to you and has been verbally abusive, if you become angry, you're catching his disease. You have to do away from it.
Okay, so, but what about all the atheists in the world? How can they take advantage of these 7 commandments then?
I have seen many atheists that are living a righteous life. But the reason why they claim they're atheists is because they're afraid of the title of God and religion, because it has been so misunderstood. I have never met an atheist who doesn't believe that there is a power behind the paradox of galaxies and all this planet and the balance in the world. They could call that their God. It doesn't have to be the name God. It's a title they're afraid of. But if they live a righteous life, they can call that energy within them God.
What is the difference between Shiites and Sunnis? When we see these horrific images from terrorists beheading people on television, are the people doing this Shiite or Sunni?
They're Sunnis. Actually, those are the people that God sent Muhammad for. He said in Quran, that is been actually misinterpreted. People think that Quran says Muslims are violent. No, Quran says these people in Arabia are savages. They kill their children. They bury their daughters alive. They are bloodthirsty, meaning they really get a feeling of euphoria by seeing the blood gushing out. These people are thugs, murderers, psychopaths that are using Islam to validate what they do. They think they're going to heaven because that's what they're being taught, because they're illiterate, so they listen to their so-called Muslim scholars, and they tell them, you kill Americans, you go to heaven, which is wrong, and they're misled by that.
And we shouldn't consider them Muslim at all.
They are not Muslim. I think we're calling them even Muslim radicalist is blasphemous. We should call them, I have an acronym for them, which is AIM, anti-Islamic murderers. That's what they are. And I think really since they're not afraid of our armed forces, the worst thing that we could do to them is stop calling them Muslims. Tell them they're anti-Islamic. We don't do it because of our lack of knowledge. Quran is really not a big book. Anybody could pick it up and read it. Now that's been translated in English.
Did the Sunnis change Islamic law? And what is Sharia law? And why has it been so controversial?
I don't believe in Sharia law. There is no way, in my opinion, that Muhammad could have written it, for the reason that has a lot of contradiction with Quran. For instance, Quran never said women have to cover their hair, let alone their faces. It never said if somebody steals, you have to cut their hand. These are the laws that Sunni Caliphate created, and they wrote it, and they said it was what Muhammad said.
Okay, let's get into history. So when President Bush eradicated the police and the military in Iraq, how did that affect ISIS and the terrorist world?
Well, it didn't affect them because ISIS has been supported by Saudi Arabia private money. And the fact that because of social media and internet, they were able to recruit all over the world people that are losers, they're thugs, they're psychopaths. They join ISIS because they pay them good money. When they kill themselves or they do suicide bombers, they take care of their family. So every loser in the world joins ISIS because nowhere else would give them an attaboy and give them money.
So in other words, they were recruiting the Iraqi military and police.
Yes.
So what is their current dream now? In other words, Julie, what do they want from us?
Well, Al-Qaeda is anti-America. But no one really asks them, when Muhammad, if they're Muslim and they call themselves Muslim and they do kill Americans under the banner of Islam, America didn't exist during Muhammad and when Islam was. So for them to have this kind of anger towards America, it's basically they're thugs, they're murderers. We should really not relate any kind of religious title to them because they're definitely anti-religion. Muhammad was very kind and loving and forgiving. God said in Quran that the people in Arabian Peninsula are bloodthirsty, cruel people. So I sent you to guide them to the right path. Ali came, he was the fourth caliph. He came and modified Islam to make it simpler. For instance, the 5-time prayers, he consolidated to 3 times prayers because it was easier for people who work. But then in Quran says, if you are working all day and you can't do 5-time prayers, then do your prayer at night. And that's why I actually said do your prayers whenever you can. You have to be always in prayer mode, meaning you have to always let God know that your heart is open to Him.
So, Shari, the United States finally got rid of Osama Bin Laden, and we thought that we were fine, but Al-Qaeda's still around. Why is that?
Because Osama Bin Laden was never number one guy. We had al-Zawahiri in prison. He was a young Egyptian doctor. We let him out. He was young, that's 40 years ago. He comes out, he recruits a charismatic, rich Yemeni person like Bin Laden. He puts him in front of camera. So al-Zawahiri is the number one guy. We never killed him because he wouldn't come in front of camera. We thought he doesn't speak English, but if we go back to our own television clips, you see how perfect he speaks English. So still nobody really knows that al-Zawahiri was behind all of that, and he's still alive.
That's interesting. Now, Shari, you left Iran at the time of the revolution. How did the revolution start?
Revolution started by Carter deciding that Iranians should not buy uranium or anything that would enable them to do nuclear power plant. But it was lack of knowledge on his side not to know that all of these undergrounds were designed in America per UBC, which is American code. So you built it for them. Carter comes and overthrows Shah because he wants to buy the raw material. Well, he didn't sell it to him. He bought it from Russia and China. Then you overthrow him and you bring somebody that has always been against. I was a child when I was hearing Khomeini talking about America being a great Satan. America is stealing our oil. Our mistake was not to do our homework, to bring our enemy and put him in power. The other mistakes we made, we overthrew these dictators without having somebody on our side, our ally, to put in their place. Now the whole Middle East is like a rudderless ship lost in a fog because we knew how to overthrow their leaders, but we forgot to put somebody in their place.
So, and now to complicate matters, the United States just elected a new president, Donald Trump. Does that give you any concern in terms of Iran?
These people in Iran that are in power are much more incompetent than we think. They would be afraid of somebody like Donald Trump because he can call their bluff. I never believed in that contract that we made because I know the culture of these people and I know they would never honor a contract. So we didn't learn our lesson from the fact that Khomeini made a treaty with Carter, took the hostages, say, if you bring me to Iran in 24 hours, I'll let them go. He came and changed his word. They're not going to keep their word. So we do need somebody that could actually confront them. and they'll be scared of them. I don't agree with the way we've been treating them with a velvet glove. They need to have somebody strong.
Understood. Shari, this has been so interesting. Do you have any final takeaways for our viewers?
Yes, I would say that you pray, you do your 7 commandments, you practice them, and if you really don't want to do it, act it out. As Aristotle said, if you act a lie for long enough, it becomes part of your character. You don't believe it, you act it out. And then when you act it out, after a while, it becomes part of your character. When it becomes part of your character, you see how everything is changing for better for you. In your life, your personal life improves, your inner self would be more serene, and then you grow faith as a result of that. Then you believe that this is how you are supposed to be. If everybody follows this, the whole world is going to be a better place.
Shari, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your wisdom and your book.
Thank you very much.